Dir? Jetzt bin ich auch wieder da. Vielen herzlichen Dank auch nochmal laut. So now I'm switching to English again, just for anyone who wants to put on headsets. And I'm really looking forward to a very exciting session with Professor Kate Raworth and Erinch Sahan from Doughnut Economics Action Lab. Kate Raworth is a renegade economist focused on making economics fit for the 21st century. She's the author of the international bestseller Doughnut Economics: 7 Ways to Think Like a 21st Century Economist, which is really influencing politicians, economists, and everyone else around the globe. She's also teaching at Oxford University and at Amsterdam University, and she's the co-founder of Doughnut Economics Action Lab, which is also where Erinch Sahan is working. He's the business and enterprise lead at the Doughnut Economics Action Lab, and before that he's been chief executive of the World Fair Trade Organization, has spent 7 years at Oxfam, has led several campaign initiatives, and is also just a very, very pleasant person to talk to. So Erinch, I'm really happy to have you here today and listen to you and Kate talk about Doughnut Economics as a way of getting humanity back into the donut.
Thank you, Mecca. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Kate, to kick us off.
Thanks so much. It's a huge pleasure to be joining you.
The sound's not on for Kate at the moment. If we can get the sound working.
Hello, donuts, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Donuts, 1, 2, 3. Tell me when you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Donuts, 1, 2, 3.
We can hear you, Kate.
Okay, great. It's a huge pleasure to be joining you. And what kind of business? So let's start, and which is going to brilliantly click this. The 20th century economic mindset, all inherited, whether we studied it or not. It's a mindset that told us that we put the market at the center. And what people are willing to pay is the right way out. It's a mindset that is man. We stand alone with money in our hands, ego in the heart, a calculator in the head, and nature at our feet. That this is who no chance of thriving together this century. And it's a 20th century mindset that tells us that the shape of success is endless. Humanity.
We're working on it.
These and other ideas, I believe, have fundamentally shaped the crises that we now find ourselves in. The 21st century has begun with financial meltdown. It has begun in an era of climate and ecological breakdown. We have lived through 2+ years of COVID lockdown, and now we are, of course, in every country, hearing of crises of food, crises of energy prices. The essentials are coming to be a crisis once again. These crises emerge from the very systems we've created. They are systems based on the assumption and the desire of endless expansion. Systems based on that 20th century mindset. We need to start.
Erinch übernimmt. Okay, I think we switch to Erinch.
Is to leave no one in the hole falling short on the essentials of life. Leave no one without their education, housing, political voice, income, equity. These come from the Sustainable Development Goals. All governments have agreed to this. But at the same time, Don't overshoot the outer limits of the donut, because there we put so much pressure on the life-supporting systems of our planetary home. We break down the very planetary systems on which all life depends. So the shape of progress is not endless growth. It's thriving in dynamic balance. Now, if that is where we want to get to, click. We are very far from that right now.
So we can pause for dramatic effect on this. I'll take over from here because clearly we're having some technical challenges, Kate. We're only hearing about every fourth or fifth word at the moment. But I can take it over from here, and Kate set us up to think about where we are currently. This is the selfie that we have as a collective humanity on this planet, where we are both in overshoot of our planet's boundaries, and we are in shortfall on life's essentials for everybody living on it. Now, we've done some work, colleagues have done some work to look at this from a national perspective. And this is the picture. We are all developing countries now. What this is showing us is that nobody has been able to demonstrate they can create an economy that lives within the means of our living planet while meeting life's essentials for everybody on it. You can see Germany on there, you can see the United States. The picture looks the same around the world. We are either in significant overshoot in order to meet much of life's essentials, or we are missing on life's essentials in a very significant way in a lot of those countries across what we have called the global south. Here's another way of looking at it, how overall we need to transform our economic models. Every country is off the right path at the moment, and we all need to think about those biggest, boldest transformations that we need to pursue. So, how can humanity get into the donut? And when we started thinking about this, particularly for business, this is going to be an important element. There are two important aspects that make up the broader book and concept of donut economics. One is to move from this concept of degenerative production, where we take from Mother Nature, we make stuff, we use stuff, we lose stuff, we repeat this over and over again around the world. I think we're all aware of this. We're all aware that we cannot continue, and we're going to have to move away to models of production that work with and within the cycles of our living world. And there are significant models currently that are demonstrating what's possible, moving from landscape degradation towards restoring our landscapes, going beyond just minimizing the damage, but to actually repairing, restoring, and being regenerative. Similarly with manufacturing, moving beyond just reducing our waste to getting into fully circular manufacturing. On the social side, because this is one of the powers of the donut, is it provides us with these two concentric circles that remind us that we cannot exceed either of those boundaries. We can't be overshooting the ecological ceiling, but we also can't be in shortfall. And that shortfall is going to be avoided if we can build that distributive economy, one that is sharing opportunity and value much more equitably with the people who have co-created it. And of course, there is no shortage of examples of what this could look like, from the housing crisis moving into affordable social housing and all the different models of business and investment that is leading to that, to moving away from profit-driven business, that profit maximization business that I've heard Ecosia and others already mention on this stage as being something we need to move away from, towards purpose-led business. So here is where I come in, and that would have been the end of Kate's slides, by the way, and she would have done them 100 times better than I just did, so thank you for bearing with me. But as I move towards what does this mean for business? Because this is a room of people that are interested in what is the role of business? How do we design businesses? How do we get into the deep structural aspects of ownership and governance and financial parameters to get the businesses of the 21st century, businesses that can help us get into the donut? Well, I'm going to invite you into a little bit of a short journey. It's going to feel like a familiar journey for you. It's going to feel like a journey that probably doesn't seem that alien, because all of you are already innovating in the way you think about business, in the way you think about how it should be owned, who should own it, how should that be structured and distributed, and who should have power, control, governance rights within a company. Those are huge questions, and they lie at the heart of what donut economics means for the business world. So the big question I think we're going to explore in this tiny journey is, how do we move from this 20th century model that has led to us being in overshoot of the planet's boundaries and in shortfall of life's essentials for the people on this? How do we move from that model, which was around how much financial value can we extract from this enterprise, to one that says how many benefits can we generate in the way we design this enterprise? That's what you're all here doing. Whether you use this language or different language, we're all in that exploration of how do we design those enterprise models that create as many benefits as possible. Now, we need to place this a little bit within all the other amazing and critical transformation journeys out there. There are so many great approaches currently to transforming the business world, and we need them all. Whether it's ones that are trying to make the business case, trying to show actually you might get some higher returns by doing the right thing, and that's going to be true some of the time, maybe a lot of the time. Ones that are looking at new goals, metrics, indicator frameworks, ways of setting targets for companies. People out there trying to demonstrate enlightened leadership as possible, to get those decisions from the highest levels of decision making that are going to be good for our planet and create the benefits for society. And those that are working on government regulations to try to bring pressure through laws, also through finance and ESG, all the way to collective action from farmers and communities and workers around the world. So all of these are really critical. And in my 15 years working to transform business, I've worked in all of these. I believe in all of these. These are all important aspects. But there is one thing that is missing from this picture. And that is highlighted by what the donut is pointing to. The donut is pointing to all of these huge, difficult, ambitious, bold ideas that we all need to pursue in the business world. Now, some will come from government, but a lot needs to come from organizations that are setting up businesses, people that are entrepreneurs. However, we're being held back. We've created a straitjacket that holds back the possibilities of what business can do. And that is resulting in us going into a very tiny overlap where the returns are maybe high enough and the margins and the dividends and the exits are all justified to a point where we can do those regenerative and distributive actions. Things like cost efficiencies and energy efficiency and things that get rewarded through the markets. However, if we redesign our enterprises and we go deep into their design, then we start having things like fair B&B, which is deliberately creating slow tourism that is better for communities, reinvesting in communities. Imagine if Ecosia would have been possible with those enterprise designs that maximize returns and maximize margins. Of course it wouldn't be, and we need to redesign and create these alternative models that steward ownership, among others, are pioneering. So, in order to move into this world, there are some examples I think we can take inspiration from. And a reminder, I think, for all of us in the room is the reason that we are redesigning our businesses and creating these innovative new designs is because we want to pursue those big actions. That's what it's going to lead to. It's going to lead to things like, for instance, Fairphone having modular product design, throwing away the old playbook of built-in obsolescence that dominates the electronics industry. Businesses like Interface that are saying, look, we don't just want to become sustainable, we want to sequester carbon through our factories. We want our factories to behave like the wildland next door. We want it to clean the groundwater. Businesses like The Body Shop that are saying, we don't just want to have some recycled packaging, let's combine that with fair trade principles. So the waste pickers in India that are picking up those plastic bottles for recycling in Body Shop bottles are treated with the same dignity that they deserve. Or businesses like Houdini that are saying, right, we want garments that are circular. We want to be able to separate the technical and the natural nutrients. However, we're going to make this open source. We're going to have radical collaboration in our industry that is not based just on competition, but based on this shared desire to create a regenerative future. And of course, there's a distributive side of this ledger as well. So businesses like here, El Puente, based in Germany, that is saying we're going to have the deepest, biggest commitment to our suppliers across the world. And we're actually going to give them shares so that they sit on our board and they help us make decisions together. Or businesses like Richer Sounds that started off as a family business but said, you know what, employees matter to us. We're going to convert to employee ownership. Or Fairbnb, which I mentioned. Or examples like Lush that are saying, let's go further on fair taxation. Let's not just pay the minimum tax we can get away with. These are all examples of the kinds of actions we need from business, those solutions, those ideas. However, they are enabled by their deep design. And this is the invitation, is to start thinking together collectively about how can we create the most broad and constructive and comprehensive amount of different alternative designs that can trigger these sorts of bold ideas. So we have a very short framework that actually in tomorrow's session, there's a workshop session, we're going to go through this as a little bit of a taster of what's coming. But we have a framework that we propose for how you might assess the deep design of business. And it starts with looking at its purpose. So an example of the kinds of designs that hold us back is the fast fashion industry, whose purpose is to make as much stuff, to sell as much of it as possible, at the lowest cost possible, and repeat and repeat and repeat. And the alternatives of artisanal production, where actually the producers co-own the business together, and the purpose of the business is around how do I benefit those people that make my products. Examples across networks of the businesses. So those trading relationships, those commercial relationships that move from commodity markets all the way to those transformative supplier partnerships. But also, who are you together with in the communities of businesses that you have a voice with? So moving away from those regressive alliances to join the progressive ones, like this kind of loose network of steward-owned companies. And of course, we get to governance, and a room full of steward ownership people are obviously going to see the importance of governance, because that is where decisions are made. Who holds decision-making power? Why do they hold it? And whose voice is in the room and who isn't? Moving away from those governance structures that venture capital often dictates, that hold back some of the social and ecological ideas we want to pursue, and move towards examples like multi-stakeholder custodianship that River Simple has pioneered in Scotland and the UK. So all of these are examples, but of course we get to ownership, and of course ownership is central, and it transcends so many of these ideas that we are working on at Doughnut Economics Action Lab. Steward ownership is central, but so is employee ownership, so is farmer ownership. But when we look at some of the biggest and most interesting innovations that are happening, we find them in these communities of steward ownership models. We find them in people that are asking, how else can we design ownership? How else can we make sure that the company is going to be there resilient in the long run and pursuing the social and ecological purpose that we want? And lastly, finance. And this is absolutely central because it often is the thing that prevents companies from doing the things we want them to do, and moving away from the quarter as king finance model all the way to how do we flex margins? How do we get capital expenditure and reinvestment into those big ideas that we need to transform our world economy? So these are all the kinds of things that are very natural for you, but it's maybe a perspective of presenting them and creating an invitation to the broader business world to design their business. And one of the reasons that we think it's critical is that maybe we need to design to enable those processes to be aligned with the purpose. Processes of product design, for instance. Or we might want to design to lock in the mission and the legacy of the business. So many of those older steward-owned businesses and companies, of course, know the importance of legacy. We might want to design to lock in those deeper partnerships. As the future comes, we're going to see supply shortages, cotton, coffee, cocoa. All of these things are going to have a security of supply issue. The resilient businesses are going to have deep partnerships with their supply chains. And we might want to design to enable that investment to happen. We heard earlier around some of the steward-owned companies being able to reinvest for their own future. Well, doing it with ecological and social goals in mind is absolutely central. So, Doughnut Economics and steward ownership ask the same question of the business world. They ask, let's look into the deep design, and let's ask which aspects of our deep design are holding us back, and which aspects can be redesigned to move us towards a thriving future. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Erinch. Stay a second.
I'll say, okay.
Thanks so much, Erinch, and thanks for filling in so fabulously. For Kate, who unfortunately we just weren't able to fix the problems with her connection. So I was wondering maybe if you think we could actually have a pre-recorded interview or something with her that we can upload for the conference.
We can ask. We can absolutely ask.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thanks for joining us.
See you tomorrow.